What? Oh, sorry about that. Well, hello, my paranormal peeps, and welcome back to another Deep Woods Paranormal podcast. Yes, I shaved my head. I'm a bald guy now. I was a bald guy. I'm even more bald now. Just gave up on the hair. And people kept calling me a Bigfoot because I've got big old feet, big flat, fat feet, and a lot of hair in places I shouldn't have it. And unfortunately, I don't have it where I need it, which is on my head. So, all right. My name is Matt Harvey. I'm the host of this Deep Woods Paranormal podcast. This is take number 2. If you're on our Facebook channel, you saw me basically do a live Bigfoot podcast a little while ago. And unfortunately, it decided not to record here. So even though it said record, it didn't record. There was nothing. Typical paranormal stuff. Anyways, nothing ever goes to plan. So let's get into this. This is the Bigfoot only podcast. Usually this comes out every Friday, which is today. It might come out tomorrow, which is Saturday, because it's kind of late. It's already 10 o'clock. Most people are pretty much past wanting to listen to an audio podcast or watch a video podcast unless they're going to sleep. So more than likely, this will come out tomorrow morning for you guys to enjoy. I hope you guys are having a great weekend. A little bit about us. My wife and I have been investigating the paranormal for 30 years. We basically research anything paranormal, be it Bigfoot, UFO, ghosts, haunted locations, basic cryptids, anything, river monsters. If it's paranormal in nature, we investigate it. So let's get into this. Again, this is the Bigfoot only podcast. We have, I think, 3 or 4 other ones. Might be changing the name of the anything paranormal podcast to something else. Let me know if you guys would be interested in doing a Dogman podcast, because they're almost as popular as Bigfoot. We might do a Dogman only podcast, or Cryptid. We already have a Cryptid podcast. So essentially, we have the Anything Goes Paranormal podcast. We have Amanda's Ghost Stories, which she doesn't do very often. We're lucky when she does come on here. We really appreciate her doing that. She's just too busy with other things right now. She and I are just both running around with people with their heads cut off or her hair cut off. In my case. Anyways, if you're listening to audio podcasts, you can click on the links below to anything I show you guys today, including our website, and all of our contacts are there. My personal contact, my cell phone's there. You can call, text me, you can email me, you can go on our website and contact us there, and yada, yada, yada. All the links to everything we're going to talk about are down below, except for what I'm going to show you guys. That's some of the evidence that we've possibly collected. So I want to just get a disclaimer out there. Just remember that Bigfoots at this point are just theory. They're not scientifically proven, if you will, just because I don't think the powers that be want them to be known at this point. And, I'm on the fence on that, whether that's a good thing or a bad thing. I think it's a good thing, because if they were known, I think there'd be people out there hunting them down, physically hunting them down, doing harm to them, maybe getting harmed themselves or killed, trying to, catch themselves one of these things. And I just think it would be an all-out disaster. And we would wipe these populations of Bigfoots out real quick. People would want them for trophies and stuff like that. So the fact that they aren't proven is a good thing. The fact that they, that we have proof of them, but we can't prove that they're real yet, because we keep getting kind of roadblocked by different organizations, let's just say, that don't want us to essentially prove their existence. That's fine. I mean, I don't know if that's for the better. One of these days, someone's going to have to get a body or put one to sleep long enough to get video evidence, get some skin samples, hair samples, and do like a blood test, and maybe even put some kind of tracking device into one of these things. And it's going to have to be severely quiet. It may have already happened. I don't know. But this needs to be like on the severe down low, because if they are physically, if we are able to get a specimen, let's just say, uh, they're, basically we have to be really careful with them, because we don't want them to get hurt. I'm against killing one, to be honest with you. I don't want to shoot one or kill one. If I had the opportunity and I knew I could get away with it, I knew I could get the body out of wherever it was safely, and two, people I trusted not to get involved with, the media or the GOV or anybody else, I would do it, really, just because then you can say, hey, here's the body, and I think that's what's going to really take for people to really believe Bigfoots exist. But there's a lot, like I said, there's a lot of proof of them out there, and we're going to look into that today. We're going to kind of look at the different proof of Bigfoots, and I kind of went through this on my Facebook page, but I'll go through all this again, just because I enjoy it. Let's share my screen here. Let's see, is this it? Yeah, okay. So people keep asking me, where's your podcast? It's on multiple different platforms. Through Speaker, we're on all of these different podcast links here. And then we're on a bunch more. I can't remember them all. I think we're on almost 60 different platforms. So as you can see, this is our iHeartRadio page for our podcast. Has all of our links. This is for our YouTube channel. If you want to go over to YouTube channel, and then all of our links for everything are here. This is actually kind of old. I've updated this since this has been out, but you can listen to all the podcasts here if you want to. This is podcast, I think 127. So we have quite a few podcasts out there. Anyways, want to quickly talk about Manscaped. If you haven't gone over there and checked out their website, please do. If you choose to buy anything, please put in the code DWP. It'll get you guys a discount and let them know that we're, basically, sending people to them. I can vouch for them. Really love the underwear. I love the t-shirt. Very high quality. I have the trimmer. Really like that. And I have a couple other products for down there, if you will, a deodorant and a couple other products, and I'll go back into those later. I just don't want to keep showing them. You guys can see on here the products. This link will be down below in the description of the audio and video podcasts. All right, so let's move on. If you guys just want a place you can go to find all of our stuff, our podcast and our YouTube channel are both on our website. If you want to come on here, you can go through and you can watch our videos, or you can listen to our audio podcasts here. Public ghost hunts, I've said this before, we need to change this to public events. We're going to be doing a ghost hunting event here in an old jail here soon. I got to restart working on the dates for that. We got to get out there before it gets too hot, because it will be uncomfortable in the jail and other buildings. But it's basically an old historical ghost town that we get to go through. And every single building seems to have some kind of paranormal activity. We're going to be doing about a 2-hour tour. It's going to be like $20 per person. Not sure how much we're going to charge for kids, maybe half that price, maybe 10. And most of the proceeds are actually going to go back to the jail, so that they can continue to, keep the jail up and help them with their with finances and stuff over there, because they're all volunteers. They basically spend their time, they work their butts off on keeping that place clean, and they really love that place. And so we really need to support them. We're going to have Bigfoot expeditions, public expeditions, where you guys come out with us to different locations and help us investigate in places that we know there's Bigfoots, places you probably have never been before. Most of it will be on private land through people that we basically know, like Joe's camp. We're going to work with him on setting up an expedition out in East Texas. You guys can come out and see all this stuff on his property. At the end of this show, I will open up Joe's Camp's video because I just realized something. Um, I had seen something, but when I reviewed the video, I couldn't quite see it. And now I'm looking back at it going, okay, yeah, I did get it. So, anyways, we'll look at, or not just it, it's them. We got a bunch of them possibly on camera. Anyways, all right. So, and then if you want to support us, you can buy us a coffee. Each cup is about $3. And again, the link's down below. If you're on our YouTube page, it's up on the top on our YouTube page. And it just basically, our goal is to get to $2,000. We're going to need more than that, actually, but we'll be looking for investors and sponsors for our show that we're putting together. I was talking about this earlier, and I've talked about this last week too. But we're going to put a Bigfoot show together. I am in the process of talking to another producer, and I'm talking to other people that would like to be on the show. It's not going to be casted. It's going to be people I know that are into Bigfoot that are willing to give their time for right now and go out with me on an expedition on a weekend, Friday and Saturday night, spend the night in a place where we know or we think that Bigfoots are, and see if we experience anything for a day or two and then come back. So that's coming down the pike. And everything you see on the shows will pretty much be on there. We'll have thermal cameras. We'll have guest investigators. I think we're going to try and have at least 6 people investigate with us so we can have 2 to 3 teams go off in different directions and basically see if we experience anything. And I'm looking to add a couple of ladies. I know my wife, I keep talking to my wife, Amanda, about going out and doing this, and she just rolls her eyes at me. Because she's a non-believer. She's skeptical, not a non-believer. She's skeptical. Let's put it that way. At this point. And then, like I say, you have to have an experience where you can say that couldn't be anything else but a Bigfoot. And I don't mean you heard some tree branches being snapped, or you saw a tree going back and forth, or you heard a scream, you heard a howl, you heard a tree knock. You have to physically see a Bigfoot. For me, like I was saying on the earlier, I've had the opportunity to have a couple really close encounters with them. I mean, where I was feet away from them, and both at nighttime. And that's scary as hell. The one time I almost walked right into a Bigfoot's belly, and if it hadn't grunted at me, I would have walked right into it. I couldn't see my hand from my face. I mean, it was that dark. The only reason I know it was a Bigfoot is I went back and looked at the film, and it's like not even a split second, or you see hair and above my head. And that's pretty much where the belly of this thing was. I'm 6'2". So imagine walking into somebody's like mid torso, waist area. That's 6'2". That's a pretty tall thing, pretty big thing. So, anyways, like I said, that happened to me on Joe's camp. My other experiences happened to me out in Black Star Canyon in Orange County, California. Just in case you don't know, we're in Texas. We spend a lot of time researching out here in all areas of the woods, not just East Texas, but north and south and west as well. San Antonio area has activity and stuff like that. Oh, speaking of which, we will be doing a Bigfoot event with a friend of mine, basically sometime in May. There'll be 3 weekends where we're going to be having events where people can come out and it'll be like a Bigfoot conference. It'll be really cool. So if you're interested in that, once I get more information from him, I will start posting it on every single platform we have, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Rumble, the audio podcast as well, because that goes out to, like I said, 60 different platforms. So yeah, I mean, there's going to be a lot of stuff coming down the pike. All right. So like I said, we're just slammed right now. We're just so busy with so many things. This is a full-time job that I, basically work on the side for no pay at this point. So I'm hoping we can get this show put together, and I'm hoping to kind of turn us into more of a Bigfoot research team, and maybe go after cryptids too. Dogman has always been an interest of mine. Joe's camp, there might be a lizard man out there. He does live real close to the Texas-Louisiana border. So scratching my head going, is a possibility. The only reason I say that is because that one, those footprints we found, I've never seen anything like that. It looks like a giant bird footprint, or like a lizards. Everybody thinks that lizards have like a long, um, like a long skinny back part of their foot, and then they have a pad, and then they have their toes that go forward. Oh, this thing had a long skinny. It was almost like a donut shaped. It was about that long, and essentially, and then basically there was like a middle part where it kind of stretched out like a normal foot, and then rounded out, and then there was three toes, very distinct toes. And there wasn't just one print or two prints. There was like five or six. We actually followed it until the ground got too hard and we couldn't follow it anymore. And honestly, I don't think I want to. The whole reason we couldn't pursue it is basically it went into private property, and we were told by Joe, you can't go over there. And out in his area, people shoot first and ask questions later. So, didn't want to get involved with that. I didn't know who the owner of the property was, so I couldn't follow it. Anyways, that's what happens sometimes. All right, let's move on. So we're going to look at some of the evidence out there, and then I'll show you guys some of the evidence that we have. This is the Skookum cast. And basically, this happened out. I'm not going to read this whole thing again to you guys, but basically, they say there's a group of Bigfoot researchers out in where was this? Washington State. So this happened in Washington State. It happened in the year 2000, and basically, they had been leaving some food out for Bigfoots in a muddy area because I'm sure they were looking for footprints. They weren't imagining they'd probably find a body, a cast of a body. I mean, you can clearly see an arm and some other parts of the print. If you really want to look into this, we can look into this later. I don't want to spend the whole hour on this. But essentially, what happened was they think a Bigfoot laid down in the mud, maybe to cool off, or who knows what it was doing. But essentially, they found it the next morning, and in an area where they left food, and so they cast this print, and this print's like world renowned for Thomas Powell, basically Tom Powell, not Thomas, Tom Powell, essentially cast this thing, and it's been looked at by a lot of Bigfoot researchers, and they basically have said it's a pretty good piece of evidence. So I thought I had the video of it. Okay, so there was a picture of the actual cast itself. It's huge, but essentially it shows a hand and an arm and part of the side, like it lay down on the side, and there's part of a leg, and it's really cool. If you guys want to look at this, it's an amazing piece of evidence. You can see the diagram here where they figured out where it was basically at, and where it basically laid down. It's right next to the road. So yeah, it's just interesting. Well, let me just read this to you. It says, one evening, the team placed fruit near near a muddy patch by the road, and the next morning they discovered they had collected something significant, what appeared to be the body print of a Sasquatch. It says, to this day, this Spookum cast is considered to be one of the strongest pieces of physical evidence for the existence of Bigfoot. So, yeah, I mean, you guys can look into this more, or if you guys are interested, leave a comment down below, and we'll take a look at this. We'll take a deeper dive into this so we can do a whole podcast just basically talking about the cast. Maybe we can, look into some of the interviews that these people have done about it, and we can play those for you too. So speaking of interviews, all right, let's go here. This is the Patterson-Gimlin film. Let me blow this up. This is what they call Patty. What I like about this is back in the day, you could basically they didn't really have suits like this. This was taken in 1957, I think. This is 6mm camera that Bob Gimlin was basically using, and he had his friend Bob Gimlin and Patterson. I forget the guy's first name, but Patterson is still alive. Gimlin is gone. He passed away a couple years ago, and so the story is that basically they found some prints. They went through and cast the prints, and the next day or something like that, they went out looking for what made the prints. And as they went along, they got to a creek bed where they saw this creature hunched over the river, essentially like drinking water. And then basically, Gimlin got off of his horse, almost fell off his horse, from what I understand, um, and basically started. Well, as he rode up, he was filming, and it was kind of bouncing around. I think the film is like 2 or 3 minutes long, and essentially he followed the Bigfoot up back into the forest. And if you've seen the full length video, not just clips of this, but the full length video, there's another Bigfoot up in the woods, kind of standing there watching. What's really interesting is like Jeff Meldrum. He's a professor, I believe, at Utah, and he's a footprint specialist. He's researched this thing. He's been in tons of shows, and he's essentially tried to debunk this several times. And he's also proven that you can't really debunk it. The way it walks, the way it basically, the footprints, all that stuff seem real. And if you watch this, I'm not going to animate this. This is a YouTube channel. Again, all the links for anything I show you guys will be down at the bottom. You guys are welcome to come back on here and watch this. What's interesting is look at the eyes. The eyes are interesting because they actually kind of have that reflective surface. You can see the sun is kind of making a reflection off the eyes. You can kind of see the nose, and the mouth looks like it's almost covered with hair. You can't really see the mouth. You can kind of see like an upper lip, and you kind of see some lips right here. But most of the creature is covered in hair. It's got that cone-shaped head. It's got bosoms, if you will, or boobs. I don't want to get in trouble with YouTube, so I'm going to be very careful about what I say. And what's interesting is, if you've watched the video, you can see the muscles like ripple through the body. Unfortunately, I picked the wrong video, but you can see the buttocks. You can really see the legs here, and you can see the calf muscle here, and stuff like that. Dr. Jeff Meldrum does a really good job in one of the shows I watch. I can't remember what show it is. Well, it's an older show, talking about how it walks and the mechanics of how it walks and stuff like that, and how the foot basically is different than humans, and which makes it hard for essentially anybody to, back in this day, 1967, to essentially fake. This was shot before Planet of the Apes even came out, the original one. And from what I've heard, filmmakers today that design these costumes now that look, they can fake them today like this. They can make a costume like this. But they've all said back in this time, it would be extremely difficult, if not impossible, to make a suit like this, especially with the bosoms and all that stuff. It would be just very difficult. Nobody has basically disproven this video as a fake. Nobody's been able to prove it's a hoax. Now, a lot of people say, well, Gimlin said on his deathbed that it was fake. No, he didn't. That's a lie. But anyways, I think we listened to Cliff talk about this video last week. You guys saw more of the mechanics. So if you want to go back to the video podcast on our YouTube channel or on our Rumble channel, you can do that. Bear with me. This is my second time doing this podcast because this one didn't record originally. And I think this is actually going to be better anyways. So, anyways. All right, yeah. So essentially it walks up the way and then basically turns like mid-stride, turns the whole upper body and looks back at him. And I didn't know this was real or not until I actually seen a Bigfoot do this exact same thing. Same gape, same exact turn. Couldn't really turn its head like we can. It basically turned its head just a little bit, and then the whole body came around and looked back at me as it walked away from me. And this one was about my size and height. I'm 6'2", about 300 pounds, and they covered a lot of ground really quickly. So let's move on to the next one. You guys can go back and watch this video if you want. I'll put it in here. Some of the other signs of Bigfoot are these tree structures and these pyramids and stuff like that. And let's go over here. And basically, like this. If you're watching the podcast, what it is it's basically like a tree that was maybe a 2 or 3 inch diameter, and it's like literally like rung around. It's not just like snapped off and basically the wind blew it one way or the other. Maybe it twisted a little. No, this is like twisted over like somebody braided it. And basically it goes all the way down, basically snapped off at the top. Something physically turned this. Look at the bark. The bark has basically been sliced. This would take a lot of pressure, more than probably a normal human could do. I'm not saying a human couldn't do it, but a human would have a very hard time. You'd have to use some kind of tool maybe to try and do this. But why would you? Unless you're trying to create an elaborate hoax. But why would you do this? It just doesn't make any sense. Why do Bigfoots do this? I think they do this because they're trying to mark their territory. They're trying to say to other people and Bigfoots, this is my space, this is my territory. You need to go somewhere else. I've actually seen, a bunch of these where we've gone out, the day before and walked past up the trail, walked past trees that are just alive. And we come back and not only is the path blocked by obstacles everywhere, like a vine was literally pulled across. This is at Joe's camp. I find them kind of humorous, to be honest with you. The way they kind of do things. It's like you can still get through, but they're like saying, hey, dude, this is my territory. Don't walk through here. This is my path. And so essentially they'll like pull a live branch or live vine across into another bush or vine, so that you have to basically pull the vine back out and push it across, and it wasn't there before. And then there's this happened in 15 minutes when we were walking. We walked from the front of Joe's camp to the top of his camp up by the cemetery, and then walked back. As we're walking back through the forest, the path we were on, that vine was pulled across, a branch was pulled like over, like a whole tree was almost pulled all the way over, stuck into the ground like one of the loops, but lower at like waist level. It wasn't like one of the, a vine or anything like this big. It was only like an inch diameter. And then as we went, there was another log, and then there was some tree trunks, and they were probably 2 or 3 inches wide, leaned against a tree, blocking our path through between the trees. And he's got a bamboo forest on his property as well, and those things are just snapped off 10, 12 feet high. If you know anything about bamboo is extremely hard. I think it's supposed to be one of the toughest pieces of wood out there. These things are just snapped off. The wind just didn't just do this. Uh-oh. Hey, no. Okay, I think my wife's letting the dogs out. Sorry about that. So, okay, yeah. Anyways, let's move on to the next thing. I wanted to show you these. So this is tree bends. Now, a lot of the time this happens with live trees that are still alive. They still have green branches. And a lot of the times these trees, it happens like overnight. When we spent the night on Joe's camp, we go to bed, and then we don't really hear much. And then we wake up the next morning and there's more tree bends. And, I didn't know when I first met him, until I went to his property, if he was just messing with me or if he was being real. And when I got there, I was just like, everywhere you looked, there was tree branches, these hoops, these loops, the trees bent over, a lot of them still, alive and growing, still having green branches, growing out of them, leaves still on them, but they're bent over to the ground. Some of them were actually, the tip of them were stuck into the ground. It's just really weird. I mean, there was hundreds of them, hundreds of them. So yeah, just strange. So these are just examples of trees being bent over that people have seen. They're just taking pictures of it. Probably other Bigfooters. Um, and then this is actually in the Himalayan mountains. Um, Basically, they saw a creature walking, and essentially, it basically disappeared from view. So they kind of gave chase, and they found these huge footprints up there, barefoot footprints, and it's freezing cold up there. I mean, you wouldn't, no human could walk barefoot up there. Your foot would freeze off. You get, rot and all kinds of stuff. Your skin would turn black and stuff. So that doesn't make sense. But the tree bends are very intriguing to me. Why are they doing this? Is it a sign of, hey, this is my area? Let's keep going here because I want to show you some other stuff. So again, Joe's Camp, we've seen this so many times. I've seen this in the national forest. I've seen this in a lot of places. Tree structures. There's these tree structures where basically these branches, these tree trunks are snapped off, or very large branches are snapped off, and they're placed in an X, or they're placed in a asterisk like form. Sometimes they're freestanding, but a lot of the time they're actually leaned up against other trees. I call them teepees. But you can see, I mean, here's one here. These don't blow up, unfortunately, but you can see in all these pictures, all these things, where they're basically just crossed across each other. Somebody said that these are Bigfoot graves. They say they basically bury their dead. Now, again, you got to take all that with a huge grain of salt. Again, Bigfoot at this point is just a theory. People have experiences with these things all the time. 99% of the time, they're not reported. So, I mean, I've met so many people since we moved to Texas that have stories to tell. I say, hey, yeah, that's great. Come on the podcast. No, 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 no. Don't want to do it. Well, you can remain anonymous. No, no, no. Don't want to do it. I say, why? There's no judgment on our show. Nobody's going to ridicule you or make fun of you or, call you a liar or anything. And they're afraid of ridicule. They're afraid to come forward. And I just think that's sad. But the more I've actually met people in person, I've just met some amazing people out here, and had a really good time talking to them about their experiences. And they've shown us places like Joe. Joe, when we first met him, was very reluctant to have be on camera or anything like that. And the more we kind of work with him, the more he kind of came out of his shell, and the more he really enjoys it. Now he's doing this full time for us up there. He's up in East Texas there, and he's by the Texas-Louisiana border, right in the thick of the Bigfoot activity. And so he's basically actively talking to other people, other witnesses, and talking to them about their experiences and trying to find locations for us to go do our research at. Speaking of that, I kind of talked about this last week. I'm in the process of putting a show together, a Bigfoot show. We're going to look at the shows that are out there that are really popular, that I know a lot of people really like, the Finding Bigfoot, Expedition Bigfoot, and a few others like Monster Quest and stuff like that. We're going to take that and we're going to go full-fledged forward with it. At this point, I am looking for another 2 or 3 people, maybe 4, to come with me full-time, maybe Friday and Saturday, maybe like every other weekend or every weekend. Go out and go into these areas where Bigfoots are seen, document it, spend the night. What I want to do. So I literally, we're talking about these tree structures. I want to set up a hammock or a tent or something, or even sleep out under the stars. I want to set up camp in these places, not in the physical where they are, but maybe next to them, maybe within about 10, 15, 20 feet. I don't want to, if this is like a Native American burial ground, I don't want to trample on anything's grave. And I don't want to be disrespectful. And I know a lot of people are sitting there shaking their heads going, that's just wrong. But how are we going to get any evidence? I mean, if you don't go into where they are and kind of push them a little bit, they won't react, and you won't get any kind of evidence. And now, by when I say react and when I say push them, I don't mean like physically try and harm them or push ourselves in a bad way. I'm just talking about in a positive way, maybe by leaving them food or leaving them treats or leaving them something to play with, gifting. They call it gifting. So yeah, that's what I want to do. I want to get out there. I want to try all these tricks. I have a lot of friends that are hunters. I have a bunch of friends now that are Bigfooters. I have a bunch of friends that are just really enthusiasts and want to have an experience that they can say it could be anything else but. And so I want to take those people and I want to go out in the field and I want to see what we can experience. I mean, in 2 years at Joe's camp, we documented a crap ton of stuff. And we'll talk about Joe's camp in just a minute. But yeah, I mean, it's a special place. I mean, when you have Bigfoots literally living, he lives in their living room essentially. They come across his property and then go across to hunt or whatever, but they spend time on his property. Joe has a very special bond with the Bigfoots there. And for your skeptics out there, I know this channel has a mixture of believers, people that are on the fence, people that are like me, they're believers, but they're also skeptical. And then you have the non-believers, which, like I said, you have to have an experience. So can't say that could be. Let me try it again. You have to have an experience. You can say it can't be anything else but. And like I said before, it can't just be, I think I heard something, I think I saw something. You have to actually physically be able to say that was a Bigfoot, Matt, and that's the experience I want other people to have as well. Because I've been lucky enough to have that experience several times. And it's a like an adrenaline rush for me. But anyways, this is getting a little long. I want to get through this stuff. But yeah, I mean, this is the kind of stuff I go looking for. Um, not to say all of these are Bigfoots, but it's strange how these trees, especially like I know firsthand because of Joe's camp, we would find tree trunks with no roots anywhere near, no tree, no base from where it came from, leaned against another tree, and then other tree branches like stacked against it. Here, let me show you what I'm talking about. Like this, we find and they weren't this elaborate, maybe because we're right there and they don't want to, really be seen that much. But it's just basically, we call them teepees, where they basically put a tree trunk or tree branch, large tree branch, into one of these V's of the trees, and then they lean, all kinds of sticks and other things. They weave vines through it and stuff like that. I mean, if you've seen Joe's camps videos, you'll know what I'm talking about, because I've gone up to them and I've shown you guys them many, many times on our YouTube channel. Unfortunately, that's not on a Rumble channel yet. Most of that video, it only lives on YouTube now, because the camera that I had at that point in time, my computer's newer and doesn't like the low quality of the video. So again, I don't know if I talked about this, but buying us a coffee, we're trying to upgrade our camera gear, especially for night and stuff like that. So let's keep going. Here's another one. This is exactly what I was talking about, where you've got all these tree branches and trunks shoved up through a V in a tree. And it's just strange. Is there anything down below here? No. Okay, so it's just strange that this stuff keeps happening. This is Joe's camp. This is what I was talking about earlier. This is our video. So this won't be linked to below. Well, yeah, maybe I will link this below so you guys can take a look. This is my return visit. We had done a year's worth of documentary there. This time I actually sat down and interviewed Joe. And if you're looking at Joe, look over here to the left. You'll see all the tree bends. There's bend back here. There's more bends back here. over here. There's more bends over here. I mean, just if you look out into the forest, they go forever. But what was really interesting is I started seeing movement over Joe's, I guess it would be his right shoulder, but we're looking over his left side. I mean, we're looking at him, straight on. So it's kind of his left side, our left side. Unfortunately, I can't zoom in on this, but I kept seeing movement over here. And if you look, there's a big black blob, blackish, brownish blob. And you can kind of see what looks like an arm and maybe kind of a torso and maybe part of a head. And again, you guys got to take this with a grain of salt. I just saw, this kind of validates what I saw. I saw this thing moving. So I know what I saw. But unfortunately, with it being this small, as soon as I turned and looked at it, it ducked. It ducked down. And then it kind of moved. I saw it move a little more. So I was very careful about I made it look like I was focusing in on Joe. And then basically I carefully kind of panned the camera a little to the left during this video. And then also, if you look over here, there's some other dark shapes over in this area. This is where Joe used to have his blind. There used to be a lot more trees. You can see the tree stumps here. He had a bunch of trees cut down because of bark beetles. And so now they don't really come in as close during the day. They used to creep down all the way down to like right here. And this is only about 20 feet from us. It was creepy as hell. Also, this used to be the road that went up. This is where I saw that one daylight sighting where that thing was literally like the Patterson Gimlin film, like literally like turned sideways. I could see the face. I'll never forget that. And I could see where the slit of the lips were, and the tan skin around it, almost like a perfect circle, and the ripples of the skin, like almost like a monkey or chimpanzee or a gorilla would have. And then I went up to the eyes, and the eyes were just the size of like baseballs. They were huge, but they were weird looking. They were white in color with a black pupil. I'm sorry, they were black in color with a white pupil, almost like the size of a large marble in the middle. Now, Joe has a theory that was interesting. He says that he's seen them multiple times on his property. He sees them all the time. They basically walk by, and he happens to walk out. They're standing right in a clearing, and they kind of stare at each other. And then Joe kind of goes, "Oh, okay, I'm going to move on." And then they walk back into the forest, and all is good. So his theory is that they have, he says they look like they're wearing sunglasses. So after seeing that, my theory now is maybe, crocodile, a shark, they all have protective lenses that come down over their eyes when they go to eat. But if Bigfoots are so nocturnal, who's to say they don't have like a darker lens that comes down over their eye to protect their eyes during the day? Maybe their eyes are so sensitive that they have to have some kind of a protective lens. At least the black ones do. So anyways, you can watch this whole video. This video is about an hour long. It just basically documents all the stuff that we saw in his camp. There's another video too. I think it's about an hour as well. Don't quote me on that, but you can go back and watch that as well from his property. That was when we first went up there, and we had a full team with us at that point in time, and we spent, what was it, almost a year, the first year, going up there as many times as we could and doing calls and stuff like that. And these Bigfoots would literally come down like to where these trees were at night, because it was pitch black out there. You could, they basically, if you didn't have infrared or thermal, you couldn't see them. Anyways, so yeah, this got only 150 thumbs up, which is sad. I think it's got almost 15,000 views now. But yeah, I mean, we're going to go back up to Joe's camp. We're going to go into these wooded areas right here, back here, either on one side or the other, or possibly both, and set up a tent, set up a hammock, whatever, in the forest back here, because this is where those trails are, where the Bigfoots come down the sides, either side of his property, and go across, go across the road into the forest across the way. I mean, he's got every animal known to man basically on his property except for pigs. The pigs are on the other side of the freeway, which is interesting that they don't come over to his property yet. But anyways, yeah, so this is a cool video. Again, this is an older video. This is my first learning to put together videos. I was working with a producer at this point in time, and unfortunately, like I said, he got sick, and we kind of parted ways. So now we're producing videos. We're doing our own thing. We're getting ready to step it up and really get out there and work with have a crew following us around. Or that's our next step. And we're gonna hopefully get that out here soon. Okay, so let me stop sharing my screen. So you guys can go back into those videos and check them out. Okay, so I told you I kind of present some of our own evidence. So I was trying to do this earlier. So that's a tooth. I apologize. This camera does not like. It's very sensitive. Wish I could turn my screen off, but there's ridges in there. There we go. With that light up there, it's a little hard to see. Anyways, we have a tooth. Now, I don't know, if you're looking at this, you're probably going, oh, I know exactly what that is. I'm pretty sure it's a cow's tooth. But if you look at the evidence they have for, why am I brain farting tonight? For Gigantopithecus, guess what they have as evidence? The only thing they have is one of these teeth from essentially, a cave somewhere in China. And that's how they based what they look like, what they probably ate, how big they were, and stuff off of. So yeah, that was actually caught. That was found at a person's property down towards Houston, and they were creating a new suburb, and he had moved in and basically explored the forest around his area, and that he found that. So, anyways, here's a hair sample. Oh, this thing's annoying as hell. Oh boy. So much for show and tell. So there's a hair sample. I'm trying not to move this at all. This green screen is terrible. If you want to go watch the Facebook page, it's linked below. You can go watch our live there. So, anyways, we got hair samples. This is from Black Star Canyon from a long time ago. I was hiking up in an area where we didn't really normally have permission to go, but we had permission to walk up there. I wasn't looking for anything Bigfoot related, but I found a footprint, and then essentially real deep in the mud. And I didn't have any of my Bigfoot research stuff with me. I was actually out on a day hike with some friends, and we're working with the Irvine Ranch Conservancy, and there's this huge footprint. It looked like there was the only one, and it looked like it stepped into almost like a hole by accident. Probably didn't see it, stepped into this hole, left this huge footprint. I didn't say anything. I took a bunch of pictures on my cell phone, and this is a long time ago. The cell phone megapixels were like 6 or 7 megapixels. So that camera didn't do a very good job taking pictures. But I collected that hair sample very carefully. It had been out in the rain for multiple days, and so I don't think there's much DNA, if anything, in here. That could be, from anything. But what's interesting is the long, grayish, whitish hair is exactly like what I saw on the Bigfoot, my very first Bigfoot I ever saw during the day. It was silvery gray, just kind of like that same hair color, long hair like this. So, yeah, you can see how long that hair is if this thing will stop moving. And there might be some skin samples in there. Now, let's play devil's advocate. That could just be from a rabbit, or it could be from maybe a coyote, or they don't have wolves out there. But it could be from almost a lot of different animals. It could be from a deer, but there was no deer prints there, just the one Bigfoot print. So maybe when it stepped in that hole, it ripped a chunk of hair off. Maybe the mud caught some of its hair. I don't know. Anyways, all right. So this is from Joe's camp. Going, but it's a rock. So on here, let's see if I can get this to turn. I don't know if you're going to be able to see it. I am not going to remove this from. This is terrible. All right. So that white thing you see right here, this is actually a strand of hair. This was thrown at Joe's camp, his trailer at Joe's camp. He went out there looking around to see. He had no. These rocks were not there. I mean, you don't see rocks like that out there. His mainly grass and mud and weeds and stuff on his property. If you don't know Joe's camp, his camp's like a football field. And it's 55 acres, and it's long and skinny like a football field would be, and it runs right through the middle of the Sabine National Forest. Anyways, you guys have seen me show this before. If I hold it here, maybe. All right, so let me see if I can do this. So here's a toe print here. Whoops. There's a little toe like right here. There's another toe like right here. Another toe right here. Another toe right here. And this toe was weird. It went up. Oh, I'm sorry. So let me try this again. Toe here, toe here, toe here, toe here, and then there's this gap. And then there's this weird like toe-like thing that comes up, and it came out at an angle here. So it came up and out like this. This is not a great cast. Unfortunately, my very first casting. And when I went to pick it up, the weather decided to change. It went from like 80 degrees down to, I don't know, the 40s on us. We were freezing. I was in shorts and a t-shirt. We'd been there for 3 or 4 hours. The thing felt solid. I covered it up with dirt, let it sit there in the warm dirt for a while, and then carefully started to pry it out. And then as I pried it out, it just snapped into about 50 pieces. And that was plaster casting. I now use dental mold, which I've made another footprint, but the ground out there, out in the Santa Ana Mountains in Orange County, California, is some of it. The area I was almost like desert. It's just really hard, dry dirt with like loose sand on the top. So you could sit there and put a print down, but it wouldn't, it didn't give you any kind of a impression. It wasn't impressed in the ground. It was just like somebody, if I had walked by in the dust and basically put my foot down and then picked it back up, and it left that impression. That's basically what it was. There wasn't any like solid into the ground marks. So I mean, this casting sucks. It's not very good. Unfortunately, that footprint was 18 inches long, and it was like the heel was like that big around. If I had the full print, you could basically look at it and go, oh, okay, you understand more what it looked like. But the toes, I mean, the toes were like, the smallest toe was like the size of a quarter. And then they got bigger and bigger and bigger. The 4 toes got bigger and bigger and bigger. One of them was like almost the size of a $50. And I was like, I got to cast this. I had just gotten casting. I was like, I'm going to do this. And man, I had bad luck with me on that day. And then, of course, there's the hair sample that we got from the tree. I don't think you're going to be able to see them, but I'll just hold the bag up. There's inside here. I don't want to put my fingers all the way in. You can see this thing's impossible. You kind of see there's some branches in here. Oh my gosh, stop moving. You can see some branches. There essentially there's some very long hairs stuck into here. I'm going to basically do a video where I'm going to record myself basically taking it apart piece by piece and try and pull some of the hairs out so I can put them in a little vial like this. Oh man, this is impossible. This camera just does not want to see what I wanted to see. So we'll have to do this without the green screen. There we go. So you can kind of see there's a hair sample in here. There's some skin attached to it. But again, this has been out in the weather for years. And so I don't think it's going to be viable to get any DNA off of, unfortunately. But all right, guys. So this is getting a little long. I appreciate you guys listening. I appreciate you watching. Thank you guys for liking, subscribing, and hitting that thumbs up bell. I mean, the notification bell, and then the thumbs up down below on any of our podcast platforms, whether it's the video or the audio. Really helps. Our YouTube channel's growing again. We're moving up, and our audio podcast is doing really well too. So we'll continue to do the podcasts. We're going to probably add and change some of our podcasts. I think like I said earlier, the paranormal only, anything goes paranormal podcast might change. We might be doing a Dogman podcast as well. And we're always looking for viewers, not viewers, guests. Or sorry, my brain is just like done for the day. It's almost 11 o'clock, and I only got like 3 or 4 hours of sleep last night. So essentially, we're always looking for guests. Again, there's no judgment. We don't want you to come on here and get ridiculed or anything like that. If you want to just come on and tell your story, it doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be Bigfoot, aliens, UFOs, haunted locations, whatever your story is. If it's paranormal in nature, our guests, our listeners and viewers want to hear about it. So anyways, thanks again for watching. Thanks again for listening. Again, please hit that notification bell. Please subscribe to whatever platform you're on. And please give us a thumbs up or a heart or something, whatever it's offered, because it just helps us get this out there more. And we will catch you on the next one.